Oh, a lot of my former colleagues here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Brian Clem, State Representative from Central and East Salem, and this is my mother-in-law, Azusa Suzuki, and I'm going to speak and explain what happened in her situation, and then she'd like to say a few things and be able to answer questions, but English is a second language for her, and I know you've got time issues, and frankly, my wife and I dealt with most of this for her because she was injured during most of it. And this has been a long time coming, so I'm going to try and remain somewhat calm. In the fall of 2004, my mother-in-law lost her husband, and there have been farmers in the Hood River Valley, this family, for almost 100 years, and he handled their financial affairs for the course of his life. He was 80 at the time. And about 3 months later, my mother-in-law turned 65 years old, and so we began researching, helping her, and my wife Carol and I, what you do when you turn 65, because you usually get on Medicare. So we had some correspondence with their insurance company, who they had been customers of. This year would have been 40 years paying premiums and being customers of this same insurance company. And we had correspondence with them telling us about a supplemental plan that might be available if she was interested in going on Medicare and then getting supplemental insurance from the same company she had been with for decades. And so my wife had phone calls with the representative of that company and really wanted to make sure she got the application right, because there's a period when you're switching over to Medicare which you don't have to go through a health exam. And Azusa had had a stroke in 1999 and recovered really quite well, but we didn't know how that would affect her continuation of coverage. So she had Carol and I work with the woman at the insurance company and got the application all completed, and we were really nervous that it was being done right. We're also trying to, at that time, finalize estate tax returns and things that were also on a March deadline, and it was due by May, and we got it turned in. The auto pay was part of the application, and she was issued these cards that she now in fact had a policy and was insured by her insurance provider. The only issue is the next month, instead of drawing $500 out of her account, or instead of drawing the $60 or $70 that a supplemental would be, they drew $500 and some dollars, and we were able to get a refund of an over withdrawal for her premiums. So fast forward about 9 months, and she was coming home from the Grange meeting just up the street from the orchard and had an auto accident, and she fractured her spine, the vertebrae in her neck and around her back area, and went through a series of ambulance into Portland and some initial surgeries, later some more surgeries a few months later, another surgery to help stabilize her neck. And we provided insurance information to the hospital and the ambulance company, and they said, okay, the car insurance would be first, and then your Medicare, and then your supplemental would be third. So we gave them all that information. And they billed the auto insurance for the first $25,000. It was way over that, but that's how much they would cover, so they paid all of it. And then they billed Medicare, and then supplemental got billed the rest. And so we had a phone call saying these are denied because she died a year ago. I said, no, she didn't die. She's fine. And they said, well, we heard via a phone call that she died. And I heard Carol talking to the lady on the phone, so I got on the phone because I wanted to hear it too. And we said, what are you talking about? Nobody died. And she said, well, somebody had called in. Sorry, that must be in error. I said, yeah, it is. What do we do? And I've got my wife's notes from the phone call, and the gentleman said we would talk to the supervisor, and to rectify, we might need to have them pay back premiums because they stopped pulling on her account once they thought she was dead. And so we said, okay, so we'd owe 7 or 8 months worth of $60 a month, and then they would honor the fact that she had not, in fact, died. And he came back and said, no, actually, we're not going to do that. I'm unable to get authorization to put her back on the policy. And we said, well, why? And they said, well, it's been 9 months, and you should have noticed they weren't coming out of your bank account and said something. Well, she had a card, and frankly, her husband, for whatever reason, had several bank accounts around town. I think he always wanted the free piggy bank or something, but we weren't paying attention to the $50 a month not coming out of her account. She didn't notice that the $50 a month hadn't come out of her account. So we said, we'll pay it back, whatever the premiums were for that period, but we've been with you for 3 decades. Can you please put her back on insurance? And they said no. And we said, okay, well, what if we just eat all of the expenses out of pocket and just put her back on? No, she now has a pre-existing condition because of this auto accident. So I was mad. I wasn't in office at the time, and we called someone we knew at the Oregon Insurance Division, and they gave us a series of questions back to look into it. And you know, we own a business too. I own 2. She's a half owner of an orchard. We don't just sue people because we own a business as well, and we understand what these other people are saying. So we didn't go get an attorney. We tried to go through the state regulation process. And in '09, we tried again to go through the state regulation process and wrote a letter, and by now I'm in office and I understand, you know, who to call and that kind of stuff, and so I've got all the copies. We went through it, and the insurance division was unable to help us get any kind of relief, and eventually, and I have it in writing, they just told me to get a lawyer. Well, if I get a lawyer, all she's eligible for is the actual damages, and then we have to pay the attorney fees. Saying, you know, we could probably afford to pay the attorney fees to get the actual damages, but I called yesterday and asked the attorney, well, you know, should we sue him or what should we do here? We're getting close to statute of limitations. And he said, well, because there is no UTPA, I can sue him under the contract law, and I'm certain I could prove that she didn't die, and that's a breach of contract. In their point, the jury would find her quite sympathetic and alive. But the bottom line is, you know, you're not going to get your attorney fees. You're going to have to pay it. And so anyway, I asked him at one point, did you mail out a cancellation notice of any kind? We could have caught this, you know, if you had sent anything. No, out of respect for the... In fact, actually, first they said yes, they did. Then when I asked for a copy of it, it was, in fact, a cancellation notice of the individual plan that we did want canceled because she was going on Medicare, not on the plan. They, at one point in writing, said they didn't issue a policy. They said they canceled her application, and then I proved I had a policy number that she had been issued a policy, and then in writing they acknowledged, yes, you're right, we didn't catch it in time. So this has not been a really pleasant experience for any of us in this family, and she's paid all of it herself, all the extra out-of-pocket expenses, she just paid it all, and this has been going on now for almost 7 years. So we ourselves believe, and I'm not even speaking as a representative, though I certainly support this bill for my constituents. This bill is not going to help her at all. It's too late. But the bottom line is, we tried going through the insurance division, and up until like 3 weeks ago, they didn't have the tools to help her. And when someone is falsely assumed to be dead, you would think that would be a penalty type of issue they would do on the company. But I've talked all the way to the top, and they wrote me letters just saying, we encourage you to contact an attorney because, you know, we're not able to do anything in this particular circumstance. Do you want to just say a few things?
Chair Shields, member of the committee, my name is Azusa Suzuki. I live in Parkdale, Hood River County. I just want my insurance company to know that I am, after 7 years later, I am still alive. And I urge the committee to support Senator Bill 719 to protect Oregonians from insurance company mistakes. I think Oregonians need greater protection. I don't want to happen like me to any Oregonians. That's all I wish. Thank you.
Ms. Suzuki or Representative Clem, at the end of the day, what was the out-of-pocket you had to pay for the car accident?
We haven't wanted to add it up, frankly, unless we had to. But I mean, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I was just looking the other day at ambulance checks that she wrote out herself. you know, and again, she was unable to be insured by anybody for all this time until finally I was complaining about this to a guy I know, and he said, oh, there is one type of policy you can get that doesn't do a medical screening. So finally 2 months ago we got her insured, but she's been uninsured for supplemental coverage since this happened. But I mean, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands.
And how many people does your orchard employ?
Seasonally, you know, 20, 25 people, permanent, full-time, what, four? Four. Family members work for free, so you can't count me, or Carol.
Careful, you might get had. Always here somewhere.
Yeah, I think four get paid, the rest of us, you know, work. And then seasonally, where there's sometimes 20, 25 people.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Suzuki?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. Senator George.
Representative, it was in this conversation, clearly your attorney probably had a conversation, or you had a conversation with the insurance company higher-ups about this. Is there any response from them? I mean, this seems like a pretty outrageous situation, and any response from the insurance company on sort of their moral obligation in this situation? Or are they just, are you just talking to lower-level folks who just say, sorry, some unknown supervisor's telling me no?
So, Mr. Chair, Senator George, first, we didn't get a lawyer for a long time, and we've never even taken this all the way to an attorney. I just called some I knew, and they said, yeah, bring me the stuff and we'll sue them. But we're not sue-happy people, so we didn't have a lawyer involved. I just went through the insurance division. I was assured that it went to nearly the highest levels there were, and nothing could be done. So last Friday night, I did get a call, and the CEO asked to meet with me. And I said that I was not, I was willing to do that, and I wanted to ask my Azusa about, I said that's not going to change anything related to what we're going to testify to or other bills that we have on this topic. And he said, no, I totally understand. I just don't want it to look like that. So, you know, I'd like to have these conversations. So yesterday we met with the CEO of this company, and she got to talk to this person. And I think now they probably are willing to do something, my understanding is. But
that's probably because you're a representative, not because...
You said that, Senator George.
And Senator George, the bill is before the committee.
Well, and I also found it, I was also found it interesting that you got a call from someone at the insurance division that said the CEO of Regence wants to talk to you.
Yeah, I think in trying to resolve this, it had gotten to a certain level, and something triggered. I mean, the CEO said they got a call from the insurance division saying, you know, were you even aware of this? And this person had come on board in late '09, hadn't been aware of this, and just learned about it, you know, literally like 4 days ago. And we spoke yesterday. It was a great conversation, and you know, I think that we're going to be able to work on some additional legislation that might help. My thought was, if just the notification had been sent, we would have saw something saying, you know, sorry to hear that you lost a family member and we'll be canceling the policy as you probably would want. And we would have said, well, what are you talking about? But there wasn't such a thing, because they didn't. Sometimes when you send notification to a grieving family, they get upset. Well, not notification, when you demand a death certificate, people get upset because they don't believe, they've told you someone died, and so this company stopped requesting death certificates just because it was offending family members. So we talked yesterday about what could we do to work together to improve the notification issues. And it doesn't do anything about her case or damages or any of that stuff. That's just, how could this have not happened? One way would be if they would write a letter saying, we're canceling this policy because we believe your family member passed away, to the estate. And so anyway, I think something productive may come out of that, and my mother-in-law got to say to this person that she is still alive, and he apologized to her and thanked her. But you know, it took obviously some time, and possibly my interest in the legislative matters to get it to that level.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Monroe.
are we going to hear from the insurance division on this bill?
I don't think, is anyone from the insurance division here?
I think we should.
I would certainly like to hear from them.
Okay.
before we move.
There she is. Well, why don't we carry that over, because we do have to get to Senate Bill 41.
It doesn't have to be today.
The administrators in the back, we will get to that at the next hearing. We need to move on. Thank you for that. I will close the public hearing on Senate Bill 719 and open a public hearing on, let's see, are we going to go, yeah.
We should see the insurance division and let them say, hey, let's go.
Open a public hearing on